the Atlanta Falcons are favorites to land Kirk Cousins. Now, I want to ask you this because I do think that Kirk leaves Minnesota because if they don't sign him before March 13th, which is when free agency kicks off, if they sign him after, they have to pay, or they have $29 million dead cap. So essentially, they have to sign him without any other negotiation from other teams. And given the nature of what his market's going to be, I just don't think that he wants to do that. I don't think that's logical. If he were to go to Atlanta, where do you think this team ranks amongst the top NFC teams?
This becomes the favorite of the NFC South pretty comfortably,
Okay.
I think. They damn near almost won this division this past season. That was with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. I listed my top 7 teams in the NFC. I think there's only 2 teams I'm comfortably putting over them. Those are two teams that met in the NFC Championship game. The 49ers and Lions, to me, are, even with Kirk Cousins, better than the Falcons.
For sure.
The next 2 teams I would still have over them because I think both quarterbacks are better, and I trust they've both had success. The Eagles, especially adding Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, I think is going to be huge for offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, respectively. And the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love
Interesting.
has broken out into a top 10 quarterback. I believe in Matt LaFleur. I've always been a fan of his. These receivers and tight ends are going to be another year into this system. And then I would have the Falcons at 5.
Where are the Rams?
I would have the Cowboys at 6 and the Rams
Lord
at
have
7.
mercy. Brother, the Rams at 7?
I would.
Why?
I think 3 through 7 is interchangeable, and I don't feel strongly one way or the
And
other.
Green Bay over the Rams.
The Rams were just first round exits
against a team that went to the NFC Championship.
Correct. Yeah,
and they lost by a point.
And the Packers smoked the Lions on Thanksgiving.
and the Packers beat the
I'm
Cowboys.
gonna fucking cackle if you say that shit again.
What do you mean? You used the Lions win over the Packers the first time Jordan Love played poorly. The first game of the first time they matched
true.
up.
I acknowledge in the second half he played a great game.
I know, but the Packers, I think, top to bottom.
What correlation did that just have?
What do you mean?
My whole point
They
is
smoked
in
the
the
Lions.
playoffs, which ultimately matter the most. The Rams lost by 1 point.
It was maybe the best game of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think pretty easily. Outside
You don't
of the Super
think
Bowl.
the Packers are more talented top to bottom than the Rams? I think it's pretty clear.
I think it's. I have.
Offensively, the talent on the Rams side is not even. It's night and day.
No, I know, but defense, the talent clears with Green Bay.
Yeah, the defense of the Rams definitely could use some work, but
And I don't
The
think
Rams personnel offensively clears, but efficiency-wise, the Packers are going to be one of the most efficient offenses in the league.
But efficiency-wise, there was no one more efficient than the Rams last
when they
season.
were healthy,
Yeah.
when Cooper Kupp, Puka, Stafford,
Cooper's
and
about to be
Kyron were on the
32,
field, yes.
31?
Say that one more time.
Cooper Kupp is
Cooper
about to
Kupp. I think he is 30.
But I'll be honest, the offensive line between the Packers and Rams, the Packers' offensive line is better.
30,
30, right?
Kyron Williams, he might have had a better year than Aaron Jones, but I think Aaron Jones is a better player than Kyron.
It's close.
I
Kyron
won't
was a
disrespect
fucking dog.
Aaron Jones. He's amazing, one of the
We
most
just saw what he did
underappreciated running
in the
backs.
playoff run.
Agreed.
Aaron Jones has done it
Yes,
year after year.
Agreed. But he's getting up there in age.
And then receiver, we know that's a clearing, of course.
Oh, it's
But they got
yes.
they got dudes, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. Like they got a lot of players. Of
Dontavian
course, not
Wicks.
Puka, not Cooper Kupp. I understand.
No, Dontavian Wicks,
Dontavian
the
Wicks,
breakout
yes.
is real, brother.
They
The
have two good tight
breakout
ends.
is real.
All right, so he'll.
We could more yards than Jameson Williams next year. I'm confident in that.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
I'll wait till we see if Josh Reynolds gets
Oh my
re-signed or
God.
not.
He's scared.
I need to make sure Josh Reynolds doesn't come back.
He's
that
still
okay?
the third option. Josh Reynolds just makes him the fourth option.
Yeah, and that's where I don't want to see
But
that.
Dan Campbell said he could compete to be a full-time starter.
Dontavian Wicks is what option for Green Bay?
Who knows? Sometimes he's
Yeah,
number one. Sometimes
Green
he's number
Bay
six.
is all over the place
They
with their
are.
options. Yeah,
I think Jaden Reed. Well, Christian Watson, when healthy, probably is number one. Jaden
I don't
Reed,
even think that's true, bro. Like at this point,
I don't know,
He's
man.
probably the most
Christian-
talented.
Yeah, that's correct.
But he just
Jaden
can't
Reed
stand the field.
probably is my favorite of the bunch. Jaden Reed, I think, he just has a lot going for him right now. Dontavian Wicks is a good player.
I
Himself.
also think just the Rams are not that the window's over, but they're trending down. Matt Stafford is 34, 35. Cooper Kupp is 30,
Joel,
going to be
I don't
31.
understand that
They
logic.
both dealt
Offensively,
with
there isn't a
injuries.
gap.
I don't know. Offensively,
there isn't a gap.
I
Between
don't
the
think there's a
Packers and
huge
Rams.
gap. I
There's
don't think
not.
there's a huge gap.
Excuse me.
There's not. Look at the points per game this past season. They're similar.
Again, that also is in due part to Kyron missing 4 games.
How many games did Aaron
Cooper
Jones
Kupp
miss?
missed a lot of games.
How many games did David Bakhtiari miss?
Okay, but when they all were on the field together, they were the number one offense across the board.
and the Packers, when all of their players were on the field outside of Bakhtiari, they lit up one of the top defenses in the NFL. In the
From
Cowboys.
weeks 9 on, Green Bay was 5th in EPA per play. The Rams were 9th.
Okay, if we're gonna do that,
wanna
but we
go
all
one
understand the numbers. When we watched, when Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams were on the field, we all saw that tweet that they were number one in essentially every statistic.
But the thing is, they're both like, even if you do 12 to 18, Green Bay's number 2, Rams number 4. They're both great offensively.
Yeah,
That's why, like, I don't think
There's
but
more
I
of
don't
an
think it's a
argument for the
clearing.
Packers being better than the Rams and the Rams clearing them offensively.
Yeah, I don't think it's a clearing. Matt Stafford, like, they have the names for sure,
And
but
Cooper Kupp is
offensively,
Forget,
the
I don't
scheme
care
works.
about the names.
has
to
not
me,
been that
it's not
good.
about the names. It's about the offensive output. Fine, Cooper Kupp, you could say is not
The
been
offensive
that
output,
good,
one of the
but
most-
they
is
just
the
went.
Packers.
But they just went there, and now Puka Nacua is, you could argue, their
Top
wide receiver
6
one.
receiver in the league,
Okay,
7,
so then what's the conversation? He's really that crazy?
high.
It is high. I
6
wouldn't go
might
that
be nuts,
far.
but he's
But
top
he just
10
put up
comfortably.
statistically a top 6, top 7 wide receiver season last year. And then Kyron Williams, you could argue, is a top 5 back in the league. And Matthew Stafford is a top 10
But
quarterback
again,
in the
the
league.
talent, I think is fair. I think they have
Jordan
better
Love just had a
receivers.
way better year
I
than
think running
Stafford.
backs are close.
Way better.
Stafford was amazing. Jordan, they were both great. But again, there's no clearing here. That's
No,
why I
there's
just think
not.
the
Like,
Packers
you
are
just
trending
said
up.
that just
I
to
think the
better
I think the
argue
Rams.
it. He
I think
was
the
better.
Packers defense is a lot better though. That's where
That's
I do feel
okay.
comfortable,
I don't
especially
hate
with Joe
that.
Barry.
And now
I like
exactly.
yeah, I
now
like
they
the
can actually
future.
play to their strengths.
But even though I was going to say the defensive personnel with Joe Barry, the rush defense still not great. The secondary is going to be good. You know that. But they got to stay healthy. Jair obviously was on and off the field all season long. They're going to look to address that in the draft this season. So obviously secondary is a need for them. I don't know. It's tough for me. It's more trustworthy that the Rams offense is going to be better. No slight.
They just got to stay healthy. That's the bigger issue.
What makes
the
it
Packers? I
trustworthy,
don't
though,
have
'cause
many.
Matthew Stafford is one of the more trustworthy quarterbacks. Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams.
The health
No,
of
no,
Matthew
but
Stafford and Cooper Kupp.
You're
But
just
That's
giving-
Matthew
what scares
Stafford,
me.
even though he fought through injury last season, he still played. Missed
But
one game.
this is my problem with what you're saying. You're just giving me names.
What do you mean? That's not what I'm
Dell
doing at all.
just told me the output in the Packers.
They're both
offensive
extremely
output was
and I
better.
gave you the from week whatever on. But when I told you that Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, when they're all on the field,
Are they always all on the field?
okay. But when they were towards the
But
end
they
of the
weren't.
season,
Okay,
That's a
and
small
say they're
sample
number
size.
1. What are the Packers gonna be like 5 at worst? Like again, their
regardless, my
difference isn't gonna
point
be
being, number
huge.
one,
But there's no clearing here, is what we're saying.
dude.
Like the Packers are one of the most
but the
efficient
talent-
offenses in the league.
That's what I'm
last
saying.
year.
You're just
But
giving me
that's-
names. The output
That's
shows
not,
that the Packers
okay, but the
are
names
better
they are
offensively.
more talented. If
They
you want
are.
to say I'm just giving you names,
They are
they're
more
more
talented.
talented.
Yes, of course,
That's
but
all.
that-
So you can't just say I'm giving you names. What
You
I'm
are
saying.
just giving me names 'cause
But my
you're-
point is,
'cause the
I'm
output
saying these
doesn't
names is
reflect
because
that.
they're more talented.
Cooper Kupp has not been good.
Cooper Kupp is not. Would he
recently,
not
bro.
be the best receiver on the Packers?
No, he wouldn't. At
So
this
you're
point,
going to
he
take
would
Jaden
not.
Reed over Cooper Kupp?
No, he wouldn't.
You're going to take Dontavian Wicks over Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp
Look
has
me
not
in
been
the eyes
good.
and say that.
Cooper Kupp has not been good. Bro.
Oh my
He has
God.
not been good.
He was not his Triple Crown like self, but he would be the number 1 receiver on the Packers.
That's what I'm saying.
I went
comfortable
forward.
saying
No,
that.
he would not, bro.
I'm
Cooper
pretty
Kupp is
comfortable
not
saying
good.
that.
He's not been playing good.
Who's going to have more yards next season, Cooper Kupp or Dontavian Wicks?
Well, I think Cooper Kupp's target share will be better. So it's
He
probably
will
Cooper
undoubtedly
Kupp.
have a higher target share.
Who's going to have more receiving yards,
But
Jaden
I
Reed
feel
or,
like
or,
I feel like
Cooper Kupp?
I feel like this is the disconnect though. For one, you look at the numbers. Cooper Kupp has regressed
Okay.
tremendously.
He's been injured,
And
but yes.
Yes, but that's a legit concern.
Against
That's
press,
a 1000%
against
concern.
press and man coverage, he hasn't been good.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that.
Just off this last season, correct? Because the year before.
yes,
Okay,
off
I
of
was going to
this
say,
last
because the year
season,
before that,
yes,
he was
but
still the same Cooper.
the NFL, especially with receivers, post 30, it's really after 30, receivers drop off. They fall off a
Did
cliff.
Keenan not just put up his best season
But
of
those
his
are
career?
outliers. Those are outliers. Cooper Kupp was not up there with Keenan in terms of beating press and man coverage. That is a legit concern with him. And even at his best, Cooper Kupp wasn't elite at that. He was very good, but he wasn't elite. And these injuries have caught up to him. I know what Cooper Kupp is at the peak of his powers. He had one of the greatest receiving seasons ever. We know that.
Imagine
But
that being in the conversation with Jettas and Tyreek Hill. That's how good you were.
He was amazing.
We know, but that's not what the case is right now. Like right now, he is far removed
But he's
from
their
that
wide.
version of
Okay, my
himself.
point being,
How would
he's
you
the wide
rank
receiver
these 7
too.
teams in the NFC? Where would you have the
Okay,
Rams and where you have the
number
Packers?
1 is probably the Niners. Number 2, Detroit Lions. Depending on where we are at the start of the season, that could be interchangeable because Detroit has some money to spend. Most likely would have you had Dallas low.
I had them at 6.
I know that was surprising to me. I think that they look to address that defensive side of the ball this offseason too. I would probably throw Dallas 3. I would put Philadelphia 4, Rams 5, and probably Packers 6.
You got the Falcons with Kirk 7.
Correct.
I think the Falcons defense last year was really underrated. It was really good. And the offensive players there, they could have one of the best run games in the NFL next year, and you're going to have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, who is a year plus now removed from his ACL. He has ACL and MCL, I think, was banged up. He wasn't 100% last year. I think the Falcons, if they get Kirk, could be better than the Cowboys next year. It wouldn't surprise me.
The thing with the Cowboys,
they could advance further in the playoffs. How about that?
And that's where you got me.
That's what I'll say.
And that's where you got me. Because come regular season, we could probably sign it off right now. They'll probably have a better regular season record. But that's a fair argument there. I think Dallas continues to get slighted because of their playoff
division
woes.
too. The NFC South, they could fuck around and be the 1 seed.
But that,
well, I think it's that they just lost Tyron Smith. And they don't have a receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb that can do something.
Well, Tyler is going to probably shift over to left tackle because he did that when Tyron was not able to play. They'll probably draft another tackle that will probably play right tackle. I think that they'll probably... It won't be as much of a concern as we may think. Losing a future Hall of Famer in Tyron, that's a huge deal. But I'm anticipating that they address the offensive line in the draft because you can use the second round, third round pick on a wide receiver. Not an ideal situation given the talent with these wide receivers, but you can get another player to complement CeeDee Lamb. I don't think Dallas is in the worst position. I think their defense is definitely spotty, could probably use some extra secondary help. Their rush defense wasn't the greatest last season, but I still think you have to respect Dallas as a whole for their offensive output, understanding CeeDee's one of the best receivers in the game. Dak Prescott's one of the better quarterbacks in the game. Their offensive line still is going to be good. It's that receiver next to CeeDee, but I really don't have any doubt that they'll go out there and find that complementary piece.
I think the Cowboys are regressing. I do. I think Zimmer might improve their defense.
Their year to regress was this season.
They had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So next year, it's a first-place schedule. I have some question marks about them. I do. And now that Tyron Smith is not there, Tyler Smith moves there, but now you have a hole at right tackle. And Tyler Biadasz, who is their center, now you have a hole at center. So we'll see what they address. And they don't have a second wide receiver. So to me, they're a concern for me to regress this year. I do think, as of now, early projections, given what these teams can do in free agency and through the draft, I think the Niners are 1. The Lions, 2. Packers, I would have them in the top 3 range too. And I understand your point about, from a talent perspective, the Rams being better.
Correct.
But I don't think that always matters when it comes to offensive output because the Cowboys, I don't think, are as talented as the Eagles. And the Cowboys were a better offense this past year than the Eagles, even though the Eagles have a plethora of talent. I just think, to a degree, yes, not having a true solidified number 1 receiver hurts the Packers.
Yes.
But they have strength in numbers. And I think that is what they do have that other teams don't have that boost their offense. And Matt LaFleur just being great. And Jordan Love, he's just... Across the board, Jordan Love was just great against any scheme that you put up against him.
You have the Cowboys or Rams higher in your list?
Me?
No, I know you got the Rams high.
Their defense is still talented. They're getting Trayvon Diggs. I think that's a toss-up for me. But I do think the Rams are in that range where they're a wild card team. I think if I'm, with Kirk Cousins being in the NFC, Niners, Lions, Packers, Cowboys, Falcons, Rams, Eagles with their new personnel changes, but they have a lot of holes. Yeah, those are the teams that I would have at the top of the NFC.
Why I say, when you're saying the talent and the names that I was giving you is better, the reason why I said all this is based off of this, because I should have just pulled this up from the start. Rams offense, when Matthew Stafford, Kyron Puka, Cooper Kupp are all on the field at the same time this past season, EPA per play first, drop back EPA first, drop back success rate first, rushing success rate first, points per drive first, yards per play first, rush EPA first. That's my whole basis. When these guys are on the field together at everything offensively, this was the best offense we saw. That was the whole primary argument for me.
I understand that. And
it wasn't just about talent. It was about production.
I know. I understand that stat. I'm very familiar with that stat. And I know that when all of them are healthy, they are an elite offense.
That was my whole point.
But
it wasn't that I was giving you names. It was that I was giving you
the
names
argument
plus
was
the
never
production.
that they're not a great offense. We just said the Packers in their own right were one of the most efficient offenses as well.
I understand that point. My point being is that this still number one across the board. In
Would you say that offense is better than
regards.
49ers offense? Because those stats can be number one.
If that's
the
the
Niners
case, bro,
offense is still
they
better.
should
But
be
the answer is
running
no,
the
though.
table.
No, the answer is no because they have Deebo Samuel, they have Brandon Ayuk, they have Christian McCaffrey.
Like, I understand the Rams are one of the
That's
elite
why the
offenses.
answer is no.
But the thing is, with that stat, the flaw in that stat, and I think it's useful because I do think the
Well,
Rams.
all I
were an
care
elite
about really
offense.
is success rate. That's really what's most important to me.
For sure. I think all those stats matter, but what I'm saying is that when Kyron Williams doesn't play for a couple games, when Cooper Kupp has had the injury bug, when Stafford missed like a game or two, that is a much lower sample size that you're drawing from. So, they're not always going to be on the field together at all times.
But towards the end of the season, we saw it all click and was a big reason why going into the playoffs, we were high on the Rams to upset the Lions.
And they lost in a shootout against, you can say, a team that was less talented than them offensively.
Yeah, but they also came up short on a few drives where they should have got calls that they didn't. And obviously that's the game.
Yeah.
You can't really just blame officiating too much. You can make plays here and there. But there was definitely moments in that game that you could have looked to see drives extended if calls were made.
I just look at the Packers and the Rams, and I do think that the Packers are more talented.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you think the offense is more talented, because I agree with
Yeah.
you. It's just top to bottom when you factor in the offensive line and the defense. I think the Packers do have more talent all around than the Rams. And I think there is optimism for improvement because all of their players that were good this past season are very young.
Fair enough.
That's where I have the most faith at. It feels like
Development.
the Rams are going in one direction, the Packers are going in another. Not saying both of them can't make the playoffs. I'll probably project both of them make the playoffs because they're going to have high-level quarterbacks and great head coaches and great offensive weapons. But it feels like the team that are all 20-somethings compared to the team that are all, or mostly, their two biggest guys, 30-somethings with an injury history. I just don't want to bank on that, be like, they're going to be the best offense in football again.